Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. We're here to bring you the latest and greatest geeky news of the week. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and with me is my wonderful co-host, as always, Courtney Bolin.
Hey, everybody.
Uh, so we got a bunch of stuff to talk about this week. A lot of it all just happened today.
Of course it
So
did, because why
yeah,
not?
I was talking to my wife Megan over dinner and mentioning like I kind of hate how Wednesday seems to be like the big news cycle day. So I have to wait to
Well,
finalize
at the
show
same
notes until like Wednesday afternoon.
hey, at the same time, I mean, we can be your first stop on launches and releases.
I mean, that's true. That's true. Uh
But yeah, it
so
does
yeah.
feel like a lot of things have been launching or releasing or being announced on Wednesdays, and yeah.
Yeah. Um well, and especially it's things that like have traditionally been on other days in the past.
Yep.
So, yeah. Um shall we get right into it?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's hit up our quick fire news. All right. Uh so first up, we have a new Indiana Jones film slated for July 29th, 2022. This has
Yeah.
been in talks for a while, but I don't know if a release date had been given out. It is starring Harrison Ford and will also be starring Phoebe Waller-Bridge and will be scored by John Williams.
Yes. I think it is important to note that this will not be directed by Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
That is
Uh,
one thing that I did see earlier
is there
today.
any involvement from George Lucas?
Not to what I saw off the top of, like, cursory between sessions,
Yeah.
like
Honestly, that's probably for the best at this point. uh, since Crystal Skull was Spielberg and Lucas, like their names
Yep.
were both attached to that film. Um, and it's not very popular.
No,
So
no, it's not. To be
I'm
honest,
trying to be
I never
very
saw it.
nice about it. Um, so yeah. Uh, but yeah, we'll see. Also of note, they are likely not going to do anything with Shia LaBeouf, and may just write his character out entirely. Um, so that I don't know, he's either just not in the picture or who
Real
knows.
World Cannibal, Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and just also with all the other the domestic assault charges
Yeah,
against him. Yeah, yeah. He's
yeah,
kind of
I don't
not a great uh asset, we'll say right now for Disney.
that's a that's a fair one to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
No, I'm excited about it, though. It should be, I mean, next summer, so hopefully it's good. I'm looking forward to
yeah,
it.
I don't know. I really don't know. Um we'll have to see. Um
Yeah.
it's also like at this point, you know, Harrison Ford is not shy about letting people know when he's just doing something for a paycheck.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. I mean, that was the entirety of episode 9. Like, I'm doing this, and when I do this, you have to kill me off. I'm not
well,
coming back.
that's the entirety of him in every Star Wars film after the first one.
Yeah.
But he's mentioned that uh, with several other properties before as well.
Yeah.
Um, and in interviews is like the main deciding factor of whether he picks up a role or not is money.
You know what? I would rather hear that, like,
I mean, that's the thing.
than
He's honest about it. Like he's not shy about saying that up
Yep.
front.
Yep. I gotta commend him on that honesty. Like, that's
Yeah.
yep. You're doing it for the paycheck? Okay. You're gonna get to do a good job for the paycheck? Yup. Okay. I can get behind that. Like,
Well, here's the thing though, is he doesn't have to do a good job for the paycheck. It's Harrison Ford. He already
he just
commands
he is
enough of
a
that
good job
paycheck.
for the paycheck. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. But this is quick fire news, so
Yes.
we're gonna keep it
Um,
moving.
yes. So next up, the Indie World Showcase for Nintendo was presented today, and we will be talking about that much, much more in our deep dive. I actually finally got a chance to watch it.
I know, right? Now here's the
Like,
question, Courtney. Is so the next thing up on our list, I don't know if you were able to check this out,
I have it
is
up on my tablet, but I was not able to fully read through it. The
okay.
nice thing is, I can read through them pretty quick.
Yeah. So there's new Unearthed Arcana out for Dungeons and Dragons today, featuring draconic options. So including things like new varieties of Dragonborn, a new take on kobolds, some dragon-related feats, um, as well as dragon-themed spells. Um, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more if we have time during the deep dive. So,
Yeah.
so that Courtney has time to look it over. Uh,
Yeah.
shade thrown.
That's
Um,
hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm working 16-hour days. The last 2 Tuesdays in a row, I have said and lived the "It's been a long week. It's Tuesday, lemon." I have
uh,
just lived that meme.
so, so that actually wraps up our quick fire news. So there wasn't a lot of different news topics, but it's as is the case. The bulk of this episode is going to be on the indie showcase because there's a lot jam packed into that topic.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so that's going to just lead us right into our deep dive. All right. Um, so uh, I will just list off sort of the titles that were announced,
Yeah.
and then I think afterward maybe we'll talk about stuff that we thought was pretty interesting.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so Road 96, that must have been the first one,
That was.
because I missed that one and didn't get it. Do we have a release date for that?
No, it was later this year, I
Okay,
believe,
so just later
if I
this year then is the release date,
if I
or the
recall
release
correctly. There
window.
was no specific date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aerial Knights Never Yield, May 19th. There's a demo out today. Last Stop, coming in July. Hindsight, later this year. Ollie Ollie World, this winter. The Longing, which is out today. There Is No Game, which is out today. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, later this year.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
Chris
about that
Tales
one.
Chris Tales on July 20th. Getsufumaden in 2022, Aztec this fall, Skull this summer, Art of Rally this summer, uh, Kiwi in August, Labyrinth City in sometime this spring, um, Weaving Tides in May, House of the Dead remake later this year, Ender Lilies in June, Beasts of Maravilla. I don't know how it's pronounced. In June,
Yeah.
Fez today, and Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals just sometime this year. So,
Yeah, that is a lot of titles.
yeah, I mean, it's that we actually wrote down them all this time. Um,
Yes.
so, couple things.
Yeah.
Um, so I think there were some really weird stuff in here. I think The Longing is probably the weirdest one.
The
Um,
Longing, I immediately went and looked up on the Switch store.
it. it's basically a game about killing time. Like, and I don't
Yeah.
mean that in like oh, like you're gonna find the Lord of Time and like stab him. No, I
No,
mean
there
like
is no time monster. It
it's
is
kind of
just
like
like a
Animal Crossing in that there's just like stuff to do, but there's no social aspect to it. Like,
I'm
because you're
very
just sitting
intrigued.
around waiting around for 400 real time days.
Yeah, that's the thing that really gets me about this game
Um,
is that it is 400 real
so
time.
the clock still progresses, um, even when it's turned off, apparently.
Yeah. So I wonder if it's going to shame you um if you leave for a few days and come back.
I mean, there's literally nobody else there. Like the whole thing is like you're the last of these little
Yeah,
shades.
yeah,
And
and
it's
that's
in
why I was
400
thinking, I was
days
like,
you're supposed to
"Oh,
wake up the
well."
king.
Yeah, that
Just
was
like a
my
big
thought. I was like,
statue.
"Oh, well, they might not have anything there to shame you." Which
Yeah.
makes me intrigued by it. It is under $20 in the eShop.
Yeah.
I did look it up. I can't remember the exact price right now, but I do remember it was under 20. Um, I'm 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 intrigued by it. I'd put it on my wish list to keep an eye on.
Um
But
I know I thought Ali Ali looked a little interesting. It had a neat art style and that it's just a straight up like platform sort of platforming game. Like it's almost sort of in the style of like the same genre as like Sonic the Hedgehog where it's I mean the goal is to just go really fast.
yeah,
And it's a platformer game. It's just you're on a skateboard. Say no word about Skateburbs, right? Like
no,
that was
I
supposed
didn't
to
see
have come out, and I
anything.
don't think it ever did. Because that was just what I was thinking of when I was watching that was just like, oh, what about that skateboarding birds game that we were supposed to get?
Yeah, that's right.
So
That
I don't
that's
know. Here, hang on. So also one of my personal favorites is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
why did I know that that was going to yep. Like, I was never into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and not because I don't like it, but it was never one of my franchises that I partook in,
Hmm.
and so for me, it's like, "Eh," like, cool. I get that it has the art style is a nice flashback. It's just not my I'm very specific with my games. and and it's just not in my wheelhouse, but it looks fun from what I saw. I just not my type.
I mean that's a game I'm sure that I will pick up and play with our friend Josh York, probably
Yeah, yeah,
former podcast co-host Josh York.
yeah.
Since I mean that's right in the wheel. Like because we played River City Girls, we played Scott Pilgrim,
Yep.
and this is like same genre. Um,
Oh, with talking about Scott Pilgrim real quick. It I had done a pre-order of the physical release that came
mhm,
out for Switch,
yeah,
and that's shipping soon.
nice.
Yes. So, but not sure when exactly it will still the shipping label has been made, is what I have.
Okay. Um, one thing I wanted to note. So Getsu Fumaden, uh, had a Konami logo on the trailer as it was playing,
Oh, I didn't realize that.
and I thought that was pretty interesting. Because number one, like since when is Konami an indie developer? Uh,
Yeah,
so like I don't know if it's being published by Konami and it's being developed by another studio, but like
possibly?
also Konami's doing something.
Well, didn't we say a couple of weeks ago that they're doing
They're gonna
a
be at
announcement at
E3.
E3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't
so
know.
Konami's doing stuff. We're seeing evidence of Konami doing
I
stuff.
don't know. There's like an actual game.
Yeah.
Weird. Um, Also that game, I mean, that game just looks like basically Castlevania or whatever the Castlevania sort of spin-off series is. I can't remember,
Mhm.
or Bloodstained. Like it looks a lot like Bloodstained, which is kind of like, well, you already own Castlevania. Why not just make a Castlevania game? So, um so I also Chris Tales, I know is uh um currently out on Steam. Um
Yes. Yeah, I'd seen that. Um, it's another one of
so
those that looks really cute, and I'd like to watch gameplay of it,
yeah, the
but
art style is really great. I have heard that the demo is kind of boring. So I don't know if it's just they didn't pick a great selection of the game to showcase in the demo.
yeah.
But that demo is out currently, I believe,
Um, I
is what I read.
I believe so, yes. Um, I really liked the look of Hindsight. Um, it definitely, at least from the small bit that we got in the showcase, it looks like it is a game of processing previous trauma. That was kind of the vibe that I got with the trailer of like, oh yeah, I look back on my life and then it leads back to the house that everything all started at. Um, but yeah, it looks like one of those psychological style games that should have that will be careful and be mindful of the mindset you're in when you're playing it, it looks like. But I'm interested to see some more of that.
Yeah. Um, I know Aztec looked pretty interesting. So the one of the things that I thought about
And it's
when I was
spelled Aztech.
yeah, because it's supposed to be like um sort of futuristic Mesoamerican
Yep.
setting. Slash like I don't necessarily know if it's like a post-apocalyptic type thing so much as just
I
like
I
urban
didn't
decay.
really. Yeah.
Um but again, thinking of former podcast co-host Josh York, uh the basics, like I don't know if the gameplay would be up his alley, but the story premise seems to be where it's uh you're a warrior who gets this super cool customizable mechanical like fist weapon, like giant
Mhm.
fist smashing weapon that you use to punch gods into submission. Uh and that sounds right up his alley. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, but I don't know. Oh, there he is. We mentioned his name and he appeared. That said, it looks very sort of action adventure platforming, so I don't know. Gameplay wise, but story premise, I that immediately I was like, oh, I bet Josh would like this.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then Skull, which
That was that
is
was that looked like really cute little different take.
yeah, so it's like a roguelite platformer. Reminded me a lot of like Hollow Knight. Uh,
Yeah, that me too.
but so you're basically the bad guy.
Are we
You're
the
a
bad
little
guys?
unkillable skeleton dude, and you can swap your head around to get different powers that turn you into different kinds of skeleton people. Um,
Mhm.
and you use it to just lay waste to the forces of good and righteousness.
I definitely think that that looks really cute. Again, not sure if it will fully be my style. Um, but I'm definitely like, again, a lot of these I wanted to see gameplay of.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one of them. And it's like, oh, are we the bad? Yes, yes, we are. We are the baddies.
Well, I also wonder if at like the very end they're gonna do some twist that it's like, oh no, like you were the good guy the whole time. Ooh.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Uh, yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get a good look at a lot of the other games because I was too busy trying to write down the titles and the release dates. Um, Kiwi looked somewhat adorable. Something involving actual kiwis and like keys.
That one I didn't catch. I really liked the look of Road 96. So the very, very first one, because it is it looks like so much of a you it's like a choose your own adventure game. Like a choose your own adventure book is a game. Is like the vibe that I got from that. And I really, really I like how almost comically mundane it is. We gotta get somewhere, and will you take the bus? Will you hitchhike? Like, will you take a taxi? Like, real life, not like, "Oh, we're just gonna fast travel there." It's like, "No. How do you do this? How do you do this simple part of this?" So I'm really excited to see some more of that.
Yeah.
Um because that definitely seems like a game that you just keep playing it. Or you have multiple games and you say, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna keep doing this." And, um, so that looks really, really cool to me. Um, I also loved the look of Aerial Knight. Um, it's, again, not really my type of game, but I love the visuals of it, although I also think that that art style would give me a headache. Um it's okay for a trailer, but it definitely similar to how I love, the Miles Morales Spider-Man, but I can't rewatch it. I can't. The
Mhm.
art style gives me like, it triggers a migraine for me, unfortunately, and it really stinks because the art style is really cool, and I love the story, but I just can't physically watch it, which really stinks. Um, Also, I loved the soundtrack for that. Like, the soundtrack for Arrow Knight was so cool. Like, that's something that I just love to have, like, going on in the background.
Yeah, they said it was,
It's a Detroit local artist. I do remember that much. Unfortunately, my brain is kind of fried.
yeah, hang on.
I wish it
Um,
wasn't.
Trying to see if they list who did because they made a point to mention it.
Yes, they
Um,
did. Um, and so
oh, it
I
just
feel
says
very
of
terrible.
Detroit artist, and it's like
Yeah. I wish I could
is
remember,
being done
unfortunately.
by Daname Sama,
Mm.
which I don't know. I thought the
Um,
name was different when they mentioned it
I
in the
don't
trailer,
know.
but whatever.
I know that
I'm
the
not going back
music
and watching it.
I know that the music was really good, and it was really, like that I could again, like, I could just kinda have that. Unfortunately, my brain would just fry if I tried to actually play it, I think. Um,
Yeah, I mean, for
and
me,
again,
I
though, it's
noticed
really
a lot of these games had a very similar art style.
yeah.
And I don't know if it's the engine, like I don't know if it's Unity, like if they're using Unity or Unreal or something.
Yeah.
But it's kind of got this sort of cell shaded, like cell shaded
Yep.
esque quality to it that's reminiscent of Breath of the Wild. that a
Yeah.
lot of indie games are just like picking up and running with. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know if it's just if it's like an easier setting to do that works well with the Switch. Um,
Yeah.
but these are also most of these are also available on Steam, by the way,
Yeah.
and are likely already out on Steam now. Um, so there's that.
Oh, which means that I could probably actually watch full gameplay of a lot of these games that are already out on Steam.
Yes, yeah, you could.
Yeah, because YouTube is great like that.
Hmm.
But
All right, Courtney, what would you say is your top pick from today's indie showcase?
top pick is definitely Road 96.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's the one that I see myself, like, going back to and saying, like, "Oh, I really like the look of this. I really think I think I wanna get it." Um, so that's definitely my top pick. Um, but of course, it's not available yet, and we don't have a full date for that one yet, so this podcast is me saying, "This is the thing that I am interested," so I can go back and say, "What was the thing that I was interested in?" Because my brain just doesn't wanna work these days.
Yeah.
What about you, Sean? What was the one that kinda stuck out the most for you?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, hands
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Uh, is I have Turtles 2 on
Mhm.
the NES, and I played a lot of Turtles in Time, renting it
Yeah.
from the video store. Uh, so I mean, this is full on in my wheelhouse, um, especially since it's also uh, like everything's from it seems pulling from the '80s cartoon, like the classic cartoon.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I think I heard them say when or heard or read, I can't remember.
So
Um,
it's not pulling in from like later cartoons or the comics necessarily, because like there's a clip in which we saw Vernon, who's supposed to be like the camera guy that follows April around everywhere. And he's supposed to be like he's kind of supposed to be a little sleazy, but mostly like he's a little weaselly, but just like cowardly. He kind of fills that archetype that you saw in a lot of cartoons at that time. Where he's like
yeah.
a minor character that like often gets into trouble and needed to be saved, but is kind of weaselly about it. Um,
Mhm.
and then we saw Rocksteady. I think Bebop was in there somewhere.
Sure,
Um,
you keep telling me all these characters that I saw.
uh,
It's okay,
yeah, I mean,
but
plenty of stuff in there. They mentioned Dimension X. I don't know what. I didn't see anything that looked like Dimension X, so we'll have to see about that.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm super pumped. I've also heard from a couple friends who saw it, got it announced for PlayStation as well, and we're super hyped about it. But that was announced a while back for PlayStation. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah,
You know,
that's my big takeaway from
that's your
today.
that's your big one. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. Joe just let me know the Turtles in Time was his jam.
yeah.
So,
Turtles in Time was
you
really good. It was one of the defining Super NES games.
yeah,
So,
but
all right. So we do have time. So let's talk about this Unearthed Arcana. So
yeah.
and do a little bit of analysis. So what we got basically were uh, three different varieties of Dragonborn,
Yep.
based along chromatic, metallic, and gem. Um,
Yeah.
so what they did was it's basically like Dragonborn Plus. So it's just better than the player's handbook Dragonborn.
Yeah.
Which admittedly, like it's been regarded as like they're cool, like they're visually cool, and like you know, um, like they're certainly popular enough that people are playing as Dragonborn. But
Yeah.
when you actually get down to the nitty gritty of like the features and stuff, not that great. Um,
Yeah.
so they took that and they were like, all right, well, let's turn everything up to 11 a little bit. So they still get breath weapons. They still get sort of the draconic heritage, they get the resistance, and then they just
Yep.
get straight up get a third feature on top of that. So
Mhm.
chromatic dragon born, um their breath weapon is always going to be a line, a 30-foot line that's 5 feet
Yep.
wide. So it's no longer dependent on like what your heritage was, whether it's like a line or a cone. Um,
Yep.
so chromatic dragonborn are always going to have a line. Um, the damage type is still based on uh, the your heritage,
Yep.
um, which you know when you think about like for green dragons, like a line of poison, you know, it doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily make a whole lot of sense. Like, and it's supposed to be poisonous gas too, so it's like, well, that one really should be a cone, but well, well, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, but so their third feature is they can make themselves immune to the element that they're normally resistant to for I want to say like 10 minutes. Um,
Yes, 10 minutes.
and the breath weapon can now be used as a regular attack. And it can be used a number
Yeah.
of times per day equal to your proficiency bonus. Um, so that's really cool. I mean, that means now that, you know, as just a regular attack, so it gets really good for say like fighters, um,
Mhm.
or monks, uh,
Yep.
that you can now breathe like a 30-foot line, and deal damage that way. Um, the here, you know what? I'm gonna bring it up too. I'm gonna open up the PDF because I saved the PDF. So I just want to make
Which
sure.
part are you at? Going on to
Oh no,
metallic
it's still
or
based on your Constitution modifier. Okay, so there's that.
oh, yeah.
I thought they made it variable, which would have made it even stronger. Um,
Mhm.
so there is that. So it's still based on Constitution, but Constitution is important for everybody. So there you go.
Yes, you need to be able to eat the rotten tomato.
Yeah.
Um.
Um, damage also increases. I think it
Yeah,
did
that was
before.
what I was looking at. I was like, "Oh, 2d8 and then it increases on 5th, 11th, and 17th level by another d8."
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
that's pretty
and the fact that
nice.
because it's a limited use feature, it's you know, successful saves are still half damage. So this means
Yep.
basically it works kind of like a not like a cantrip because cantrips are successful save and it's done. It scales like a cantrip though, um, so that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um, so metallic dragonborn, their attacks are in a 15-foot cone, so
Yep.
basically burning hands.
Mhm.
Same thing,
They are
scales, proficiency bonus, blah blah blah. Now,
yep, also
their
by the
second
con.
feature, oh, so the second features are available at third level. Um, is you get a second breath weapon, and when you use it, you choose one effect from the following list. Is you can push people away from you and knock them prone, which is trying to think if it's bronze dragons or silver dragons they have. It's called like repulsion gas. Um,
Oh, okay.
so but it's basically like you can thunder wave or whatever for no damage,
Yep.
but it's you can knock people back and knock them prone, or they become incapacitated until the start of your next turn.
Oh.
So I want to make a clarification because I looked at that and I went, that is broken. And then I looked up, and then I went back into the player's handbook and looked up what incapacitated actually does. Um, it's really good, but it's not broken. I was
Okay.
getting it mixed up with stunned. So
Yeah. Stunned
stunned would have
is
been
nasty.
gross. So incapacitated is just they can't take actions or reactions.
Yeah.
So really good. Uh, but you're
Really
not,
good, but
you as an attacker
not
aren't getting
as
anything.
yeah, not as broken as you thought.
Um, and that is limited to once per long rest.
Yeah.
So again, like if you go up against, if you're gonna have a really tough fight, um, you can rush in there and, you know, boom, incapacitate, hopefully take out, a bunch of people that lose their turn as,
Yeah.
everybody gets into position. Basically, you can use it to buy yourself some time.
Yeah,
Um,
which honestly is how I when I look at that, I think that that's probably exactly what that's for, is buy myself some time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that can replace one of your attacks when you take the attack action. And that's also in a 15-foot cone. So,
Mhm.
all right. Now, Gem Dragonborn. So, Gem Dragon's the only one we've seen in 5th edition is the Sapphire Dragon. They haven't done anything else with Gem Dragons.
Yeah, I
So,
had never heard of gem dragons, and this sounds beautiful.
so, um, so metallic dragons are good. Chromatic dragons are evil.
Yep.
Gem dragons are neutral, and they're the various shades of neutral.
Yes,
And they are psychic.
because they are the firstborn of Bahamut and Tiamat.
Um, yeah, I mean, the lore kind of shifts between editions. So
In this UA,
this
let's
is
put it
kind of
that
what they're gonna run with. But yeah, so the ruby dragon, quote unquote, is sort of meant to be uh sort of the gem dragon god, analogous to Bahamut and Tiamat.
yeah.
Um, so uh again, so these guys also get 15-foot cone. Um,
Mhm.
works the same way. Um, you get telepathy out to 30 feet. And then at third level, you basically
You can use your
uh
bonus action to temporarily summon an array of
so
spectral
so you
gems.
get wings, but the wings aren't like actually wings. It's like an array made of floating gems
So it's like
in the shape of
yeah,
wings.
yeah. And
So it
for
makes
the
you look like a crystal chandelier kind of a thing.
I'm
Um,
gonna swing.
so I do like the fact that Wizards is basically kind of going, oh, you know what? Maybe we overestimated how good flying is. Uh,
Yeah,
and we can actually give it to different ancestry options.
yep.
Because,
Well,
in actual play, in my experience, flying hasn't been that great. All it's done is isolate party members from each other. And, like, sure, one particular party member might be safe from combat, while everybody else is getting their butts kicked. Uh,
yeah.
and they tend to,
Well,
fly up and out. Um, and then in order to keep themselves safe, they fly up out of range and then are like, "Oh no, I don't know what to do."
yeah,
Uh,
it's the whole, like, I get out of range and then, like, unless you have, like, sharpshooter and, like, the invisibility that doesn't drop when you attack,
yeah,
like, and you're high enough level to do that stuff, like, then it gets sick because you can just be I am the knight and just attack, and
yeah.
they can't see you or anything. But, really, until you get to that point, like,
But
there's
also,
there's
like, most monsters have ranged attacks, so
yeah,
and
but,
like it was a bigger deal in like third edition because third edition had very granular rules for like You got attack bonuses if you had higher ground. So
Yeah,
like if you were flying above somebody, like you got, +2 to your attack roll. Uh,
yeah,
and then like if you're also flanking, which you could more easily do if you were flying, you
yeah.
would get another +2 to your attack roll. So when you have granular stacking bonuses like that, sure. Um, but
But until then, yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't really, yeah. Also, I think that the thing is, like, you do these, you get this once a long rest, and you get it for a minute, and your flying speed is equal to your walking speed. Like, those are all things that I think help even it out too. So, um, but I can't wait to see uh some fan art of the Gem Dragonborns, like, with their gem flight wings out. That would just be so
yeah,
pretty. Like, I so yeah, because I had no idea that gem dragonborns or gem dragons were even a thing.
yeah. So let's talk about gem dragons a bit. So
Yeah.
the five right because it's draconic five, um,
Yep,
uh, amethyst, crystal, emerald, sapphire, topaz. Um,
yep.
Amethyst most powerful. I think topaz least powerful. Um, and it kind of
As
goes
necrotic?
like amethyst, then sapphire, then emerald, then crystal, then topaz. Um, it depends. Sometimes in the editions, like topaz is higher up on the chain, and it changes because nobody really
I
knows
was
what
gonna
the
say,
market
yeah,
value
because
is.
in this UA, it has them labeled as amethyst, and then crystal, then emerald, then sapphire, then topaz. So
That's
I
because it's
don't know.
alphabetical order.
Thank you. I was gonna say,
That's why
I'm
it's
not
listed
sure if
that way.
that is a specific, like, reason, or okay, they're just in alphabetical order. That's fine.
Um, Amethyst dragons, their breath weapon has traditionally been a um basically an exploding amethyst. Like they just sort of like cough up this like amethyst bomb. Uh, that then explodes with psychic force, so it deals force damage. Um, Crys-
Oh.
Crystal dragons, all about sort of gleaming and shimmering, and like so their breath weapon is just like laser beams. That's your Pink Floyd dragon. Um, Sapphire dragons are very like militant and like orderly, um, and so I think I'm trying to remember what their breath weapon is. But it
Sapphire is thunder.
well, no, I know that, but I mean in the past, it was
Oh,
always
okay.
tough because Emerald and Sapphire both had like kind of the same breath weapon, but they had to differentiate them so that they just didn't have the same thing. For like
Okay.
it was like one of them was like a keening wail, and the other one was uh like a vibrating sound, and it was like that's the
Yeah.
same thing. Uh, so they gave him thunder for this one, and Emerald has psychic. Um, Emerald
Mhm.
dragons are um basically like if you took a kobold and you made it dragon sized, like they're very like skittish. They're like very introverted. They don't like visitors. Um, they set all sorts of traps to prevent people from bothering them. Um, and in the past, these dragons also had psychic abilities. And all their psychic abilities were geared toward that of like setting traps and doing stuff. Oh, we lost Courtney. There, now she's back. Um,
Yay.
so yeah, so basically, Emerald Dragons, sort of grouchy introverts that don't want to meet people, and set traps to prevent anybody from coming into their lairs.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Topaz Dragons, their breath weapon is necrotic because it's Um, their breath weapon is a desiccation breath. So it's like, as opposed to exhaling, it's like inhaling and sapping moisture out of things.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Or I mean, if you want to
Interesting.
flavor this way, it is just salt. Salt is their breath weapon.
They're just that salty.
Yeah.
See,
Um,
this kind of makes me wanna do a Steven Universe style with all gem dragonborns, like a Steven Universe party.
I mean, you could.
Yeah,
You could.
yeah, and, have it be something like that, and I think that that would be really fun, and that's just because the gems.
Um, and then kobolds. So another crack at kobolds. Um, Small size. So basically, a lot of the stuff. Dark vision, walking speed is still faster than gnomes and halflings. Um,
Mhm,
so instead of what they got before, you get two features now. Draconic Legacy, which is when you make a kobold character, you pick one of these options. So no two kobolds. You could have two kobolds that have entirely different options, and it's just that how the Draconic Legacy manifests in kobolds is sort of up to chance. Um, you can have advantage on save throws to avoid or end the frightened condition on yourself.
mhm.
Uh, you just get a sorcerer cantrip, or you can make unarmed strikes with your tail. When you hit, it deals 1d6 plus strength mod damage.
I don't know, I'm
Um,
kinda torn between those last 2 of which I would choose if I was making 3 kobolds in a
Now
trench coat.
that is an interesting way that they worded it because that means that um, your tail can be used as a monk weapon, or your tail can be used to make monk unarmed strikes, whereas
Oh,
like tabaxi claws can't, technically
yeah,
speaking. Um, but like I mean, it's yeah, uh, it's a thing.
yeah,
So
um, and then you get
it,
that
basically it's like like common sense. Like sure, you can use your claws to make unarmed strikes with
yeah,
your like as a monk, but like it's some way that it's worded that technically you're not supposed to be able to do that because natural weapons are not unarmed strikes and like yada yada yada.
yeah.
It's all a mess. So this is a way where it allows you to do that. So again, makes me wonder if at some point they'll just like if there will be like if they ever reprint Tabaxi and or Lizard
Yeah,
Folk.
yeah,
Um,
if those rules will be changed.
yeah. Or potentially Minotaur, Centaur, something
Yeah,
like that. All right. So Draconic Roar. Now, I kind of have an issue thematically with this for
considering
kobolds.
it's a kobold?
So, as a bonus action,
Yeah.
you let out a draconic roar at your enemies within 10 feet of you until the end of your next turn. You and your allies have advantage on attack rolls against any of those enemies who could hear the roar. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain them all with a long rest. So, this is basically to give kobolds pack tactics without giving kobolds pack tactics. Whereas, I don't know, I feel like just give kobolds pack tactics. I don't I don't understand. Uh But yeah, this is basically a way to it just I think I mean the mechanics I don't mind.
Yeah,
I think it's a little weird to limit it.
it's
Although
kind of one of
it is
those.
you and all allies have advantage on attack rolls
Yeah,
against any of those enemies who could hear the roar. So within 10 feet of you. Okay.
yeah, just within 10 feet.
But
Yeah,
if you're a very melee heavy party, um
yep.
yeah, I mean everybody just gets a turn of free advantage on all attacks. I mean that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Um I would have said perhaps limiting it to just the kobold, um, and not limiting it, but sure.
I
It's just
mean,
that the
it's like a
roar,
it's
like,
like a little war cry.
3-foot tall little dragon man runs in and just like, "Wah!" And now all of a sudden everybody's like terrified.
Yeah.
Or it's a battle cry is what it is.
Like, yeah, like, that's kind of what I'm thinking of it as, is just this battle cry of,
Yeah.
"Ah!" I will not do the roar, but but
Um
I do think that it's yeah.
so yeah, I mean, interesting. I think I think upgraded dragonborn are going to be very popular.
Oh, yeah.
Um I so um So I know Joe's in the chat and brought up Dragonlance.
Yep.
Kind of related to this and why I think we're seeing a lot of Dragonlance stuff in this UA is apparently the that suit against Wizards has been dropped by Weiss and Hickman. So they must have actually worked out the deal because they also announced that there's a trilogy of books coming out later this year. Um,
Yeah.
so my guess is that I don't know, maybe Wizards decided that they actually do want to do Dragonlance and are like, well, we'll just pay them. Like,
Yeah.
let's just pay them, get them their money. We'll have the books come out, and we'll do a Dragonlance campaign setting. Um,
Yeah.
I would have said prior to the suit getting dropped, we're never going to see Dragonlance, just because of the bridges that were burned. But
Yeah.
like,
But
I don't
now
know.
things have kinda changed.
Uh, yeah, it's I think, and I don't know what the relationship is between everyone. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, especially if this stuff makes it to print.
Yep.
Now I could see Wizards wanting to play it a little cheeky and not wanting to tip their hand because if they had put Draconians in here, then everybody would have said the jig is up. We know it's coming. So
Yeah.
Draconians are basically Dragonborn in Dragonlance. The difference is they were created by the armies of Tiamat by
Yep.
taking a bunch of different magic users. So you had to have an arcane magic user, a divine magic user, and a dragon. Uh, and it was they had to conduct this ritual on a clutch of metallic dragon eggs, which would corrupt the hatchlings and turn them into humanoid dragons instead of actual dragons. Um, and instead of breath
Dark,
weapons, like
man.
they have death throws, where when they die, they do all sorts of wild and weird stuff,
Yep.
like exploding or turning into the person that killed them, or turning to stone and trapping the weapon in there, melting into a puddle of acid.
Exploding?
Uh, or in the case of Aurochs, which are gold draconians, um,
Yeah.
it's like they light on fire and then turn into a whizzing like ball lightning and then explode, sort of a thing.
What?
It's all sorts of
That is
nonsense.
just so much. That is
Yeah,
so extra.
yeah, yeah. It's a
That is
silver
so
Sivox or silver
extra.
draconians. Um, if they are killed, polymorph into their killer. But
Oh.
if they kill somebody, they can polymorph into the person that they just killed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh my, that's a little terrifying to think about.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
wow.
kind of like bugbears in that like they're really big, but they're also
Yep.
really stealthy and make for great assassins.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah. And then
I'm
of course they
I'm
introduced
I'm
stuff like they were all previously all male, and then they discovered that there were actually female draconians,
Mhm.
and in some cases female draconians have different powers than male draconians, but that brings up a whole issue. Uh, so so I don't
Hmm.
know if they would continue that lore. Um, where it's copper draconians. Uh, the males are the ones that like dissolve into acid, or can like lick their weapons and coat their weapons in like acid and poison, whereas the females have like healing saliva, so like they can lick you and
Oh.
cure wounds. Is basically what it is. Um,
I can lick you and make it better. This is Steven Universe.
I
This is
think
Steven
that might be
Universe.
the only one where it's different though. It was weird. It's weird.
I lick.
Um, we also got 3 feats, so Gift of the Chromatic Metallic Gem Dragon. Um, so Gift of the Chromatic Dragon is you can basically elemental weapon, or uh, when you take elemental damage, you can get resistance to that damage. Um, Metallic Dragon is you learn Cure Wounds, um, or uh, you can manifest Protective Wings. So you can do kind of like a um, sort of like
Magic
a D4
shield.
shield,
Yeah.
um, that you can protect yourself or other people that are like adjacent to you.
Yep.
Gift of the Gem Dragon is you get a +1 bonus to a quote unquote mental ability score.
Mhm.
Um, and
To a
when you
maximum
take
of 20,
damage,
which is,
what was that?
I said it gets it to a maximum of 20. You can increase it by 1 to a max of 20.
Yeah.
So if it's already above
Well, that I
20,
mean that's typical though. There's only
yeah.
a very few like class features or magic items that can
Yeah.
increase your scores above 20. Um and basically you can, so when somebody hits you and they're up to 10 feet away from you, you can like counter psychic blast them. So they take force damage and are pushed away from you. So you
Nice.
can force push somebody in response to them hitting you.
Yeah. No, I
So
think that those are some pretty nice, feats.
yeah, I think so. Gift of the Gem Dragon, though, it just feels like that could just be a generic psionic feat, as opposed to
Yeah.
something specifically from Gem Dragons.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I'm not entirely sure on that one.
Hmm.
And then the spells. So we got Draconic Transformation. Is you get wings, you get a breath weapon, you get blind sight, uh, big ol' bonus action. It's kind of wild shape, but you turn into like a dragon-ish type thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't fully turn into a dragon, but you get enough draconic features that like I mean you could for all intents and purposes become a dragon.
You could pass as one.
Yeah. One thing to note is it requires a statuette of a dragon worth 500 gold pieces.
Ooh.
So Fizban's platinum shield um is you get like a physical shield, or it's like a field um
Mhm. Ooh,
that's meant to protect
that
people.
one has some pretty, like, a lot of these have some pretty expensive, okay, a couple of these have some pretty expensive, components because Fizban's Platinum Shield requires a platinum-plated dragon scale, worth at least 500 GP as well.
Yeah, I think it's also the higher level spells have the expensive spell
Yeah.
components.
Yeah, I mean, that was a 7th and a 6th,
Yeah.
so, like, after
Um,
that.
and so basically while you're in the field, you get half cover, resistance to elemental damage, and evasion, basically.
Mhm,
Um, which is cool, because half cover also gives you a bonus to dexterity saving throws.
mhm.
So it's basically anti breath weapon is what that spell is. Um,
Yeah.
but not necessarily, because typically breath weapons involving cold and poison are constitution based, so that's something to keep in mind.
Mhm.
Um, all right, Flame Stride. This is a cool spell. Your speed increases by 20 feet. You don't provoke opportunity attacks. Concentration lasts up to a minute. Um, when you move within 5 feet of a creature or object, it takes 1d6 fire damage as you trail fire behind you.
Yeah.
Um, and for each slot above third, your speed increases by 5 feet and the fire damage increases by 1d6.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
Whew.
super cool. I mean, this is basically a Back to the Future type thing. You just go really fast to the point that fire is erupting from your
Gotta go
veins.
fast.
Icing Death's Frost is basically a mini cone of cold. Um, and on a failed save, creature is covered in ice um, until it uses an action to free itself. It's basically speed is reduced to 0.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Nathair's Mischief. This is basically a multi-purpose illusion spell.
Interesting. I like that the material component is a piece of crust from an apple pie. Not just a piece of crust, not just like not like some part of a piece of crust from an apple pie. It must be apple. None of this, blueberry pie nonsense. Like that just confirms that apple pie is the best type of pie. But
Yeah, so I mean, it does things like incapacitates creatures,
you drop
um,
drop molasses.
blinds creatures, charms creatures, difficult terrain.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that, one of them is that the effect is the smell of apple pie fills the air. Like, and that's what causes each creature in the cube to need to successfully succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become charmed. Like, "Oh, is that pie? Is that apple?" Again, not just any pie. We're not talking pumpkin, we're not talking blueberry. It is apple pie. But
Yeah,
I like seeing that little bit of fun, um, and the specificity of it.
yeah.
Mm.
Um, Rolithim's Psychic Lance. So it can target a creature you see, but you can also name a target, and if the named target is within range, it gains no benefit from cover or invisibility as the lance homes in on it. If the target
Mhm.
isn't within range, the lance dissipates and the spell slot is not expended. Um, 10d6 psychic damage and incapacitated.
Yeah, and
Um,
that is a 4th level enchantment, so
yeah, that's also successful save does nothing.
yeah, yeah, so it's one of those, you gotta do it. But
Yeah, so it seems like basically the idea of that is you can name a target if it's behind total cover. This is gonna like go through the wall to hit
yep,
them, or go around the wall to hit them, or whatever. Um,
yeah, but
because yeah, like it half cover um doesn't provide any bonuses to int saves. Um, so yeah. Uh, and the last up is summon Draconic Spirit. So
yeah,
in the new summon spell series, this is you
and
basically summon a dragon. You
this
summon a
is
large
another
dragon.
expensive one. This is a 5th level, so this is another expensive one, and I think it's interesting because it's an art object from a dragon's hoard worth at least 500 GP. So, like, you could be carrying around some artwork of any kind and any kind of medium that a dragon would hoard, which I think leads to some fun, um I think that can lead to some fun RP choices.
Mhm.
Because you got to have it before you can do that. So it's like, okay, we found a dragon horde. Now, what do I pick?
Yeah, well, it,
There's
it
the
also means
fire.
that like if somebody picks this spell, um, as a dungeon master, you want to make sure that you provide them the opportunity to get the material component in order to cast it.
Yeah. And it's funny because Joe was saying, use that 500 GP dragon statue you used. And it's like, well, only if that's from the horde.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
that's the thing,
like
because you could
it's a great
commission
way to do
a
it.
dragon statuette.
Yeah, like it's a great way to do it, but only if, and I kind of like that again, the specificity of it has to be from a dragon's horde. So, but
Yeah,
dragon would have dragon statues.
maybe. I mean, here's the thing:
Some of
they're just
them,
gonna they're just gonna take stuff that's expensive.
I was gonna say, yeah, some of them are vain like that. But not
Yeah.
all of them. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's it
Yeah, I
for
mean, that's
that
still a
Unearthed
lot.
Arcana.
Yeah.
So I have to say I was hoping that there would be more in the way of feats a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
and I mean the spells, they seem fine. I don't know. You know me. I don't necessarily play spellcasters, so I wouldn't get a lot of usage out of many of those spells. Um,
Yeah.
from a player perspective. Um, so yeah, but I do enjoy the sort of revamps to Dragonborn. I'm curious to see what sort of changes to kobolds will make it through playtesting, and whether
Yeah.
they kind of re-theme some of the stuff.
Mhm. Yeah,
Maybe call it like
I'm
Draconic
interested.
Battle Cry or something. Uh,
I am interested to see I guess what this is gonna turn into is the best way to put it.
yeah,
And where it's gonna go from this exact spot. Um, but I really do. I want to do a Crystal Gems party
hmm
that is just all gem dragon born. Like, because I feel like that would just be fabulous. But
yeah.
yeah.
I'll have to see if I can find some of my old material that has Gem Dragon stuff and show you sometime.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
because
be
it's just
good.
it's they're weird. They were kind of shoehorned in second edition. It's just like, oh, we have psychic rules now. We should make a bunch of psychic dragons to go with it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, all right. Since we're running a little bit long, though not as
Yeah.
long as we normally do for
Yeah.
for an indie showcase episode,
Yeah.
why don't we move along to quest log?
Yes.
All right. So quest log is where we talk about what sort of geeky goals we've accomplished over the past week, and what sort of geeky goals and tasks, quests, you might even say, we would like to
Mhm.
accomplish in the upcoming week.
I I failed.
Oh
I
no.
I did. I looked at the book. I looked at Candlekeep Mysteries very longingly um over this past week, and I barely had time to sleep even on the weekend, which was a little bit depressing for me. But I do still have it with me when it is in my daily bag, so I always have it with me. I just have not gotten a chance to pull it out, let alone anything else. Unfortunately, life is very, very, very busy right now, and just a little longer. Just a little longer. But yeah, I want to be able to. to do this, but it's going to take a bit. Um,
Yeah.
so I unfortunately did not get any of my goals done. Um, again,
Okay.
I was pretty impressed with the fact that I got the opportunity today to watch the indie showcase.
Well,
Like,
Courtney, I mean, one of your goals is survive. So, I mean, you
I
managed to
mean,
do one.
yes, I am here for another week, folks. I am here for
So,
another
whether
week.
that counts as explicitly geeky or not, I don't know. I don't know.
I am here so that my goal is to survive so I can continue to do geeky things. Um, like this podcast. So me being here this week is accomplishing that.
Okay.
But yes, unfortunately just the real world is very busy right now.
Yep.
But what about you, Sean? Did you have more luck than I did?
So, I mean, I started coloring that comic. I didn't finish it.
Mhm.
Um, but I did get all those bosses imported into
Mhm.
D&D Beyond. So yay. That I mean
Yeah.
that was quite a bit of effort.
Yep.
Just because they're very complicated boss fights. Um Sort of. There's a lot going on for those boss fights, and so importing them into D&D Beyond took a little bit of effort. Um
Mhm.
and so yeah, so I kind of got 1 out of 2 done.
Hey,
Um
one is better than, you know?
yeah. So upcoming goals is obviously do more chapter 1 comics. Keep myself on track, try and get back on track. Um
Yep.
so one of the things I'm going to do is I am once again because this stuff is all in drafts, uh kind of revamp how I do culture in Tales of Jemmora.
Yep.
So instead of adding it as another other layer of character creation, um, which for Dungeons and Dragons compared to other RPGs is a bit lengthy,
Mhm.
is um, kind of doing what I had done a little bit before and rolling it back into backgrounds, right? And
Yep.
so it's simply uh, you would add an extra feature to an existing background. And they do this like they do it a little bit with the Baldur's Gate backgrounds, um,
Mhm.
where it has like a specific benefit that you get like while in Baldur's Gate. Um,
Okay.
so the idea for this would and making specific backgrounds that are very iconic for that
Yep.
region. Um, so things like Fispani Sailmaster, Dremen Desperado, Asperian Whisper Agent, um,
Yes.
and providing it gives you a benefit that is pretty consistent with existing backgrounds. Um, of that is for that specific background and then a benefit for that culture which is shared among other backgrounds from that culture. um
Yep.
so for Twillin, it's any person from Twillin regardless of what background they have, um ignores disadvantage on perception checks due to lightly obscured areas from dim light and fog. Now,
Yep.
it's a little wordy and everything, but like normally a lightly obscured area, if you're trying to look into a lightly obscured area for any reason, you have disadvantage on wisdom perception checks. Um,
Yep.
so if it's due to fog, like fog, mist, whatever, or dim light, you ignore that if you're from
Yeah,
Twillin.
which is really good.
But not necessarily
And
if it's from undergrowth, which is something
yeah,
that I think a lot of people don't do. Is like if you're trying to look in a bunch of like bushes and shrubs and everything, and something's lightly obscured, that's normally supposed to impose disadvantage on those
disadvantage.
checks.
Yeah.
Um, or if you're looking out from that area, sort of, because you have to
Yeah.
kind of like, push through vegetation and everything. Um,
Yep.
So things like that, and also kind of retooling stuff. So like for example, drum and grit, which is sort of the cultural shared benefit, no longer gives you advantage on death saving throws if you fail two death saving throws. Um, but instead, it's you cannot die from exhaustion. Is it simply not? It simply renders you unconscious until you would lose that level of exhaustion. So like
Yeah.
So it's not that like if you were to be rendered unconscious from exhaustion, like you can't outright die from that, but it's essentially I mean it's basically instead of dying, you would go into a
Mhm.
coma.
Yeah, that's,
And
a little bit nicer
that's it
than
kind
going
of
into a
keeping in
coma.
the theme of uh like it makes it a very sort of hedge case, edge case,
Mhm.
but also hedge case uh of that it's specifically exhaustion. Like exhaustion can't kill you. Like you were
Yeah.
just too stubborn to go down. Um, but in theory, like as long as you're not at the point of starvation or complete dehydration, is
Yeah.
and you're in a safe spot. I
Yeah.
mean, in theory, you could like you drop unconscious and you just like sleep for 24 hours basically and you wake back
Yeah.
up. You still have 5 levels of exhaustion, but
Yeah.
in theory you might be able to like crawl your way to a hospital or something.
Or
Um
have nice friends that can, get you there, but yeah.
yeah. And the thought is to kind of, because there's a lot. So in that case, Drummond is supposed to have a very like big sort of cowboy
Mhm.
western influence right on that region. And
Yep.
so that's a very common trope of like think you're dead but you're just knocked out kind of a thing and left out in the desert to die and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But things like that. And so
Yep.
um but also revisiting the whole adding. So Wizards has been pushing like this like you choose ability score increases. um so adding as an option if in place of doing that, um, having your background give you ability score increases.
Mhm.
In this specifically a plus one, to specific stats. Um,
Mhm.
so, for example, the Asperian masked wrestler background, gives you plus one to, can give you plus one to strength or charisma because you need
Mhm.
both to be a good masked wrestler. Uh,
Yep.
so things like that. So that
Yeah.
working on that, just trying to get more of those done. Um,
That's good.
I think the goal is to try and start with 3 for each region, and then see where
Yeah.
we go from there. Um, uh, so Joe, would it allow someone to get a +3 from generation? So the idea is that you would it's an optional rule, so it would essentially replace one of your plus ones. And the way that works is it's got to be in different ability scores. Um, um, what we're gonna do for the next campaign when we generate characters is we're gonna do your class gives you a choice of plus one, your background gives you a choice of plus one, and then you can get a floating plus one of your choice. Um, and nothing is tied to your ancestry. Um, so that like, and it would be that you have to have it either be plus one, plus one, plus one, or plus two and plus one. And that's
Yeah.
just for game balance. Um,
Which works.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean,
Yep.
it's
Cool.
also
I
it's
mean,
kind of
you've
boring to just
definitely
like throw all of your bonuses into one ability score. So I don't know
yeah,
if I would necessarily expect that to be that much of an issue. Um,
but yeah, I mean, that's, it's Words. I have them. I'm glad to see that you're working on those more because I really like getting them. There we go. Yeah, but fun. So sounds like you've been doing a lot of geeky things. You've made up for me not being able to do anything.
Oh, and I forgot, finish sorry, one other goal is to finish, season 1 of the Unsleeping City, which is another
Ah,
Dimension 20 campaign, where it is basically it's New York City, um, and, there's a fantastic version of New York City.
yeah. Are you how many episodes in the I guess season?
Um, I'm most
You
of the way through. I wanna say I'm
really?
maybe, like,
There we go.
2/3 of the way through.
Yep. There you go. That's something easy again to be able to finish.
Yeah,
Cool, cool. All
so
right.
so that's that. Alright, let's wrap this thing up, shall we?
Yes.
So thank you all for joining us. If you would like to see more content from 8-Bit Adventures, be sure to check out 8-bitadventures.com. Over there you can find comics, podcasts, streams, artwork, and more. If you'd like to help support that content, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Um,
Patreon.
yeah, Patreon. You can also subscribe right here on Twitch and get access to subscriber only emotes. Um, Either way, every little bit helps. Thank you all for your support, both subscribers and patrons. And lastly, our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, we are finished. So, as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.
Bye everybody.